right, so this is our final project. So hopefully you have already read through the assignment. If you haven't done that, please stop watching this, go back, read the assignment, and then come look at these. So we're going to do a little bit different than the normal lecture. We're not going to talk about design principles and elements, key terms. We're going to look at some artist examples. So you guys are going to be making some powerful portraits, and here are just some examples of things that I found that I thought were fun and should hopefully get you inspired. Okay, first off, I don't know if anyone's seen this before. It came out on Instagram, so it's a popular cultural thing. But this is a photograph that Beyonce put on her Instagram in 2017. It's a photo that she used to announce that she was pregnant for the first time. And I remember when I came across it just thinking like, wow, like that is maternal power. Like she's just got such grace, such beauty, but just a lot of strength and power that's coming out of this. We can see that in the color composition, so that blue and the dark in the background kind of being kind of cool, and then there's a lot of warm tones in the front. The way that she's positioned right in the middle, her eyes are looking right at us, but they're not the most thing that my eye goes to first. Mine actually goes to her belly first. It's really kind of the focal point of this piece. We can see that the color in her body is highlighted by her bra and her underwear, and those things kind of highlight those spaces, which are really maternal spaces, but then really kind of focus that emphasis into her arms and that belly, and really kind of giving that power. So these flowers being kind of growth all around her, it's just a really striking image and really a beautiful way to look at maternity and maternal power. All right, another type of woman that we're going to look at. So we're going to kind of jump back in time, and we're going to look at this painting of Marie Antoinette in a court dress. So if you don't know who Marie Antoinette, she's known for saying, "Let them eat cake" to the French peasants who were starving. Not actually true. Apparently she didn't say that, but she's known for her opulence, her frivolity, her, kind of just over-the-top lifestyle. So she's got this giant dress on that's just huge. It doesn't even look like she's fitting through that space she's trying to get to. She's in this room that's very grand. It's cluttered with stuff. There's a lot going on, but somehow she still is the focal point. She's got this crazy dress that has so much detail on it, more detail than anything else we see in this space. But really what creates the kind of emphasis on her is that her dress is so detailed, but then her face is so stark, and it almost looks like it's made out of marble. It's so smooth and hard. So there's that contrast between her dress and her body. Also, there's a light contrast. So all the lightest space in the painting is right on her face. It's really the thing that your eye is drawn to. And she's right in the middle. Again, she's got this kind of center position. She might be taking a step forward, but she's really pretty stably centered in the painting. And she's not really going anywhere. She controls her space, her domain. She's the master of her thing. Okay, Marie Antoinette. All right, let's talk about this guy. So this is a portrait of Alessandro Farnese wearing armor. So this guy is very proud of himself. He's got just this whole frame to himself, and he is just strutting his stuff. So value contrast is a huge way that this person creates emphasis in this painting, but also a way that that power is kind of enforced. So we see that the lightest spaces are his face and his legs and a little bit of his clothes, but those kind of spaces. And then the background is pretty dark, and his armor is kind of dark. So even though the things that kind of, his world and his stuff that protects him kind of is this dark, he is really the light of his own world. He's kind of creating kind of a lighter space. And his armor and his clothes have a lot of texture to him, but his face and his legs really are smooth. So there's a contrast there. He's also in this kind of famous pose that's called contrapposta. It's when you kind of put your hand on one hip and stick it out, and your body creates this kind of S. So it's an asymmetrical way for a person to stand, but it also creates a lot of balance and ease and control. It's kind of a powerful thing to do. It's a beautiful thing to do, but he's kind of invoking that there. And he's a really vertical guy. Everything that's going on in this painting is really vertical, but his sword is almost diagonal, almost horizontal, kind of showing that he's got this macho sword power going on, that he could just whip that guy out at any time, because diagonal lines reinforce energy and movement. So he's got something. He's got some weapons, Anyways, power, trying for power. He's a funny dude, but there we go. All right, let's look at this lady. So this is Portrait of a Lady, and she is right smack dab in the center of this painting. Again, value is a huge thing that creates emphasis for her, so everything around her is dark. Her clothing is pretty dark, but her face and her neck are very light, so our eyes just kind of snap to that, and we really are focusing in on that. She's got a lot of texture again in her clothes and her hair, but her face is really kind of hard again. So she's really got this contrast of texture. She's really like using curved linear shapes. Not only that, but the frame is curved linear. So everything seems to be kind of spiraling into her face. It's really trying to push our eye to just look right into her eyes. She's definitely opulent for sure, but she's also calling our attention. She's looking right at us, and she's got an intense look for sure. I mean, the value contrast between her eyes and her face is just intense. You know, you're looking right into her pupils. So she's an interesting lady. She's calling her own power. Go for it. All right, let's talk about this little lady. So this is Bather by Alice Neal. So we're kind of jumping forward in time. This is 1982. So this little girl, I don't know about you, but I feel like she's queen of the beach. You know, she is queen of her own domain. She's got her own power going on. So she is standing in front of the ocean, looking out at us. She's right in the middle. I mean, if we were to fold her body in half, it would be perfectly symmetrical. She's really got a power stance going on there. The color is creating a lot of emphasis on her. So she's got cool colors in the background and warm colors in her body. There's sort of a value shift too. It looks like she's kind of a little bit more intensity of hues. She's a little bit darker than the colors behind her, so she's really calling that out. But I think it has a lot to do with that stance. You know, she is so stark in the middle of it. And it really does, for me, create that feeling of like when you're at the beach and you're a kid and you've got like just this intense game going on that you're so into, and you know, you're just really engaged at the beach, and it's a really like kind of powerful feeling for a little kid. So this is, I think this is beautiful, a beautiful painting of beach power. All right, so this is another portrait by Alice Neal called Portrait of Timothy Collins, and I had to kind of look him up, and it reinforced what I already knew about him from just looking at this painting. But he was a Wall Street guy. Made a lot of money. He met Alice Neal from seeing her doing other famous portraits and said, I gotta have one of those. So he's a go-getter guy. And in this, I heard her describe kind of what she was wearing, what he was wearing. It was like all these silks and handmade shoes and all this stuff. His clothes is so cared for. I mean, look at those buckles on the boots. They're very, you know, just calling your name out. And again, like the Bather, he's right in the middle. His body is so symmetrical, so stable. He is in command of his own world. His chair kind of mimics him, so the architecture and the lines around him are mimicking his body in a lot of ways. But there's also a huge color thing going on right now. So we've got orange and blue. So his suit is blue, the background is orange, and we're creating this really intense focus. It's almost like he's this kind of cool, calm, collected guy in the middle, but the space around him is just kind of burning up or something like that. He's really emitting a lot of power and strength. The green is also doing a vibrating, but not, you know, it's just kind of reinforcing that orange in a lot of ways. So he's really got a lot of things. He's really sharp. He's really powerful. He doesn't look mean to me, but he does look in control of his world. He looks like a powerful guy. All right, we're going to jump to some photographs. So these are photographs done by Annie Leibovitz. You might have seen her work in magazines. This is a picture from Vanity Fair. So this is the Queen of England at Buckingham Palace, a very powerful lady. And it looks like it's a painting behind her. It doesn't even look real, and that she's standing in front of it or something like that. It's so strange. And it has a lot to do with the textures in the background. So the textures behind her really create a contrast to this kind of what feels almost like a stone figure of her body. She's really solid. The value contrast between her body and her face is kind of interesting. Her face is white and her hair is white and her clothes are black, and they're just kind of vibrating against each other. She's right in the middle. She's pretty dang symmetrical. She's twisting her body a little bit, but she's pretty symmetrical. And her background is really horizontal. The world that she's in is really horizontal, but she's really vertical. She's going up. You know, she's the tallest thing almost in this painting, and just kind of reinforcing her strength again. All right, a different type of power. So this is a painting of a um, ballet person named Michael Baryshnikov. He is kind of known for his power and strength, and I like the way that this painting is layered up. So we've got this natural environment, a lot of texture, a lot of value shifts, a lot of pattern going into this softer value, which is this sort of, that cloth, drop cloth behind him. And then we've got this man-made perfect object, a piano that's just black and white, not huge value shifts or lots of gray in there, just black and white, and then his body, which is the most, the dynamic lines that he's creating with his body are really intense. But, there's that value contrast. His suit seems to be really dark, but his body's, kind of light. He's got horizontal, vertical, and diagonal lines going on in his body. He is so dynamic. There is so much movement and power and direction going on in him. And I like that there's kind of these stacking of objects. There's these natural environment behind, there's this man-made environment, and then there's this sort of, things that are made by human hand. And he is kind of like in control and master of all of them. He's kind of in the middle, he's a little off to the side, but he seems to be in movement in a lot of ways too, and that's kind of reinforcing that. So lots of power going on here, really kind of strength of the body, strength of, or mastery of his kind of dance. All right, famous print by Andy Warhol of Liz Taylor, also known as Elizabeth Taylor. So she was kind of a famous Hollywood icon, really beautiful, in a lot of really famous films. She was iconic for sure. And so her body is, reduced to black and white, but then she's got these color splashes on her. So she seems to be really stable. The idea of her is really stable. Not to mention she's smack dab in the middle. She's looking right out at us. But then there's this color behind her that feels really like energetic and vivacious and fun. And so she's kind of contrasting. She's using value as an interesting contrast. She almost looks like she's made out of stone. But then the color feels really, young. So she's really playing with this kind of idea of a timelessness and a newness, also a vibrancy for sure. So really dynamic, and yes, very powerful lady. All right, our final image. So this is an image of a young man named Idisa Nidiea from 2012. So this is an oil painting, incredibly realistic oil painting. So we see a young African-American man. He actually might not be African-American, a young black man standing right smack dab in the middle. He's got this really kind of stoic, symmetrical stance. And then he's got this ornate kind of almost framing device around him. The framing device has blue, yellow, and red, which are the primary colors. And then he has he's green and he's white. He's got these clothing that are a little bit more of a jumble from like something else. But he really kind of is emitting this kind of control, power, strength. He looks like a tree. He's like a column. He's such a titan. But then he's got this really kind of thing around him that's kind of reinforcing that he's larger than life and that he is very much in control of his own space. Okay, so that's the last image that we're going to work on, and just know that these are just a few. You guys know so many images from popular culture and such of powerful portraits, so just look around you, look on Instagram, you'll find stuff, and good luck.